come together with me. And because of this covenant, everything you need I could give you. I realize you're in a desert and you have to go from place to place and be nomads. And you never really have a home. You never have a place where you can really lay your head because you always have to have water. And the desert's a dry place. Listen, I've got wells in my land that you can come and find refreshing in that. And look at this. I've even got vineyards. I'm talking about vineyards, something that you probably know nothing about. I've got all these things, and we can come together, and if your son will marry my daughter and your daughter will marry my son, then we will be in covenant. Our families will be as one. And guess what? You've got 7 sons. I've got a whole bunch of daughters. You could enter into covenant together, and something good could come out of this union. And it excites me because there was that time in Genesis when it said that Eve took the apple, and then she bit it, and she passed it to Adam, and that he bit the apple, and things were out of order, and things were messed up, and sin entered into the world. But the Father came together and said, okay, I've got to work things out because I refuse to discard my children. I love them far too much. So he said, I'm going to put together this master plan and orchestrate everything because they're living less than what I call for them to live in. So I've got cattle on 1,000 hills, and I've got a heavenly kingdom I want to usher to this earth, and I've got blessings beyond measure. So I want to bring them together, and through this union, even though everything was messed up and everything was wrong, I still can bring good out of it. Somebody say, thank God for fathers. Thank God for fathers. But a problem arose because it said 2 sons of the father, Levi and Simeon, overheard what happened. And they grew up in the same environment that Dinah did. They had the same problems, the same mindsets that Dinah had. But the difference is, Dinah didn't stay in the house. Dinah went out looking because she had a desire, and her cry was, God, don't let me turn out like what I grew up in. But her 2 brothers stayed in the house, and that's all they knew. All they knew was frustration. All they knew was bitterness. All they knew was violence and a temper. That's all. They were angry and they were frustrated. That's all they knew. And they never took time to get outside the house and look for something. And it said they heard what happened. And as their father Jacob was away making covenant with the prince of Shechem, Hamor's father, it said that they plotted that when it came time that the prince of Shechem came in to get his wife and covenant was going to be made, that they set a trap and they slew all of the prince of Shechem's men, and they killed the prince of Shechem. Because they thought that they were doing their father justice. They thought their father would be proud because in reality it should have never happened. And they didn't even realize it, but out of their own doing, they sabotaged the blessing of their sister, and they also messed up the blessing for themselves. Because they grew up in it and they allowed it to grow in them. And they didn't even know it. They thought they were holy. They thought they had it together. The Bible says it like this, that you slay my prophets and you feel as though you do me a great reward. Through the intertestamental period, beginning at Malachi, all the way through, it says that God searched the land and he couldn't find a king, and he couldn't find a prophet, and he couldn't find anyone to raise up for that generation. Why is that? Because there was a lot of brothers that were sons of the Father, but they killed all the leaders because the leaders made a mistake. They killed all the people that were excited because when the excitement died and they stumbled, they said, we can't use you anymore. And through the process, a breach was made because of frustration. And it said that Jacob looked at his 2 sons and he said, you're cursed and you're divided. You'll never produce anything. Jacob was destroyed. He was distraught. And I understand, because he had done everything he could do to make things right. But what do you do when you do everything for your kids and they still turn out wrong? Oh, come on, somebody. What do you do when you try to do everything? You go to your wits' end. You go to the end of the road trying to make things right, and things still turn out wrong. I can understand why Jacob would curse his sons and divide them, because Jacob had a problem with people that can't believe that God can take something that was wrong and turn it out right. Because Jacob came into his life by ripping off and stealing the blessing off his brother, lying to his father, running from his brother, running from God. He spent his life in a wrong situation that should have never happened, and God turned him out right. And if you are ever in a situation where God takes all your wrongs and turns them out right, you utterly hate it, and you have a violent reaction towards people that want to cut others off because they made a mistake. And I almost have to be put on medicine in the sense, because I can't stand it when people can have someone come to the altar and shun them because they're getting made whole. Who are you? I know some of the mess that you were in your life, you did it. Had nothing to do with God or the devil, had everything to do with you. But in the midst of your mess, God gave you a message. And I'm looking for a holy uproar to rise up in this place of people that understand we can't discard those that messed up. It wasn't right for Rahab the prostitute to lie about the spies being in her house. It wasn't right for Judas to betray Jesus. It wasn't right for Jonah to disobey God and go the opposite direction and get swallowed by a whale. It wasn't right for Samuel to lie to Saul about going to anoint David as the next king. It wasn't right. Is anybody hearing me? God specializes in taking things that aren't right and turning them out wrong. The most powerful statement that you could ever understand is "but God." Because what he will do is he will take where other people will put a period on the end of that and say this is the end, and the sentence is now, it's final, and God will put a comma and say, "But God intervened. But God brought restoration. But God healed their mind. But God delivered them from addiction." Is there anybody that God got his butt in your way? Is that a little too raw? I'm sorry. If it's strong, we can get the ushers. They'll bring some water around. Let's water it down. I believe we're at a place where there's a lot of people that are out of order, they're out of place, they're out of sync. There's things that just didn't happen the right way. And I refuse to allow this ministry to become a place where we become the older brothers and feel like we're doing God a great justice by shunning them and saying they're not welcome here, based upon how they look or how they act or their past. I believe that God has called us to create an environment where the fathers can come together and our sons and daughters can no longer, even though they were raised in a frustrated environment, cannot allow what they were raised in to become part of them. But at the same time, it should give you an appreciation to understand that because you could have turned out the same way, and it was simply by the grace of God and him keeping you, and that you didn't turn out like that. It says that Jacob, after he did everything he knew to do, that he went to a place called Bethel. It means the house of God. And I believe if you could ever get to the place that you would stop running in every other direction looking for help, but you would simply come to the house of God for help, I believe that God is getting people to the place where they've ran to the counselors and they've ran to all the business advisors and they've ran to all the rehab clinics, and they can't find help for the business, and they can't find help for their marriage, they can't find help for their addictions, they can't find help for anything. So it's coming to the point where the only place left is Bethel, the house of God. It said that when he got to Bethel, it said that he wrestled with an angel. I promise I'm coming to a close. I took my watch off because I didn't want to know what time it was. I appreciate you staying here. Don't miss this. He came to the house of God and he wrestled. And this is where we miss it, because we think when we come here, we can get down on this altar, say, "God help me." And we look over and see somebody getting up, and we think we can get up and go back to our seat, and it's over. And it doesn't work like that. And we think because they sound so good singing up there, that if we raise our hands the right way and we just sway a little bit and we clap to the song, that we're worshiping God. It doesn't work like that. I'm looking for some people that know what it's like to say, "Okay, I'm going to do what it takes. I ain't wasting any time. I'm going to wrestle with some things in my life. I'm going to make sure that I get free of this thing tonight. and I'm already bound and determined, and that you can get fired up. And that's why I can't help in service. I just got to walk around because there's some things I'm wrestling with. And you can get to the place where you say, okay, I've got my Kleenexes ready, and there's a bottle of water when I get tired, because I'm about to wrestle with something. And I understand it might be ugly. So if you all just want to just go ahead and do your own thing, I'm not here for anybody or anything, because I'm wrestling with God. And you can get to the place where you can just simply say, God, I'm just all about you. I just need you, whatever it takes. I'll laugh, I'll cry, I'll snot, I'll mess up. I understand that through all of my mess ups, God, that you can still give me a message.